Hey, all right. It's Hard Talk Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Deadman, and with us here tonight is Staci Layne Wilson. How you doing?
I'm good.
That's good to hear. So, how are you doing, by the way? I mean,
well, and what am I doing? Yes, I've got a lot of things to talk about. So thanks for having me on the show.
It's no problem. Now, I started with one question with all my guests, and by the way, no co-host tonight. The co-host, Victor von Beowulf the Fourth. I don't know. He has so many names. He has so many names. And you know, some authors, they add more names to their name to make it sound even more, I guess, professional or whatever. That's what it is.
Well, I have 3 names, just like a serial killer. Do you ever notice serial killers all seem to have 3 names?
I didn't want to point that out, but I'm glad you did. So I could ask you how to properly dispose of this body I have in the garage. Is that what?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, okay. All right. And the NSA is clearly not listening to us, right? I mean, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so Staci, I asked this for all my guests, and that is, who are you and what do you do?
I am a storyteller, and I do that in a variety of different ways. Right now, I'm really concentrating on my books, but I've also made a few films along the way, several shorts and 3 feature films now. But the books have always been my favorite thing. I actually had my first several books published, when I was in my 20s, and I've just kind of kept up with it off and on throughout the years. But now I'm kind of doubling down with a 3-part series launch of horror short story collection that launched last week, and it's called Rock and Roll Nightmares.
Rock and Roll Nightmares. Okay. And this is your recent project that just, like you said, launched last week. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's a series of horror comedy, like dark comedy, rock and roll themed short stories by myself and some various other authors, including one that you just had on your show recently, Ruth Ann Jaggi. She's in the 1970s edition, yes, and her story is called Tiny Danger, which is kind of a riff on Elton John's Tiny Dancer. Mm-hmm. So all the titles have those kind of punny, fun ways to spring off into a story. So yeah, there's a 60s version, 70s, and 80s.
60s, 70s, and 80s. Let me guess, is 80s like a lot of like hair metal?
Oh yeah, there's a few of those. The title of the book is called Gory Days, which is of course a takeoff on Springsteen's Glory Days. And then some of the titles in there, yeah, like Sharp Dressed Manslaughter, Don't Stand So Close to Meet, Shivin' on a Prayer, Hip to Be Scared. So it's fun stuff. Yeah.
I know some of these. I know I'm kind of young, but I know some of these. And ZZ Top. I used to, my dad would play ZZ Top all the time. I grew up listening to that stuff. Man, good stuff. ZZ Top, Led Zeppelin. Good music. Anyway.
Yeah.
But
all that.
But why rock and roll? Like, what's that?
Well, it's in my DNA because my dad is a musician. He's the founder of The Ventures, which is 60s based surf rock group, and they were one of the first guitar bands to really influence a lot of other artists that we listen to today. So they're very influential, and they did, in case you're not familiar, they did Hawaii Five-0 and Pipeline, Wipeout. They have a song at the end of Pulp Fiction called Surf Rider.
They do.
So,
they do.
Yeah,
so like, and that's a band that a lot of people have heard. They probably don't even know that they heard too.
Exactly, because it's instrumental, so there's no lyrics to kind of say, oh, I know that song, when I hear it, because the hook and the lyrics. But definitely the music is very well known, and maybe the name not so much. But I did recently make a documentary about the group, so hopefully getting some new fans out there, and it's been really well received so far.
Wait, you made a documentary about the group that your dad was in?
I sure did.
Wait, isn't that going to be kind of biased, though? Are you going to give us the real deal, or is that going to be like from colored lens?
No, it's not. It's just basically it's kind of a parallel between the rise of the electric guitar because that really wasn't as prevalent as it is now in the
Oh
early
yeah.
60s. It was actually banned in Japan as being evil music, and
Oh,
that
that's
the
weird
electric
because I don't ever
guitar
been
was
paying
kind of
attention to.
scary to some people. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's mainly, it kind of parallels that and then their influence on other musicians. So I have a lot of uh commentators in there like Jimmy Page and
Oh, cool.
John Fogerty. Let's see who else is in there. We've got Jeff Baxter from Steely Dan, the Suffragettes, some young up and coming, female artists. So their influences is far and wide. So really, the commentators kind of carry the story along. I don't really draw any conclusions as the filmmaker because I think documentarians should just kind of present the facts without really coloring the story, the narrative, unlike, say, a narrative film.
Right. Okay. And that's interesting what you said about Japan. That Japan banned the electric guitar. I didn't even know that.
They did.
Which is surprising because have you paid attention or have you noticed any of the bands coming out from Japan lately? Like they are on fire. They're just phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Like Bandmade. There's other bands too, like Love Bites. Really good stuff. So anyway, so that explains the rock and roll connection there. But why horror? Like, you seem like a very nice lady, a nice woman. Like, why horror? Like, I mean, you could write, do the cliche thing, not because you're a woman, but just because there's probably more money in it. You could probably write romance or write, fantasy or something. I don't know. Why horror?
Well, I think that it's the most interesting springboard from which to tell a variety of different kinds of stories because within horror, you have supernatural, you have serial killers, you've got the true crime angle, you've got the psychological, you've got the creatures. So there's just so many different things that you can connect with within the horror genre. There's so many subgenres. So that's what I really like about it as a creative writer. Also as a reader, I do stick with that, but I also love nonfiction. I read a lot of biographies and surprise, surprise, a lot of musician biographies. I love those. I love history. So I try to keep myself as well-rounded and informed as possible so that when I am writing a book or a screenplay that I come from a place of many different inspirations. Even if it's what I'm putting out as horror, it's informed by many other different genres.
So do you feel in a way that horror kind of like liberates you, gives you more freedom to explore things?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's metaphorical. I mean, look at, the films of the 70s. George Romero, his zombie movies were metaphorical for different things, political, just kind of what the climate was in the world at that time. So, yeah, a lot of horror filmmakers may be dismissed by the mainstream media as something that's not serious, but there are sometimes some really interesting, serious undertones to a lot of those films.
Right. It depends on who it is. I mean, some people could like produce a very campy slasher film, and they know it's campy, but they might make it seem like it's like the parallels of some sort of other messaging. Other times, it could be like maybe it's perceived as a campy film, but it actually the director did intend for it to have some sort of, I guess, underlying narrative or what have you. But I noticed that horror and sci-fi are the two genres that really allow that to happen in a creative way. Oh, and also comedy. I guess comedy as well. I mean,
it can, although I feel like there's way too many rom-coms out there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are just, there's really nothing beyond the surface. But of course, I love comedy. Like, as I mentioned, the recent book series has a lot of dark comedy in it.
Okay, and let's get in a little bit deeper in this rock and roll nightmare. What is a rock and roll nightmare?
Well, the different stories, just cover different people in the music business, whether they're the musicians themselves or the groupies or the managers or the fans. So they just are plunged into different kinds of nightmares. There's a time travel story. There's, one of the stories by Mark Wheaton, who's a very talented writer. In the 80s edition is called Dead Over Heels, which is takeoff on the Go-Go's Head Over Heels song. And it's about this girl group. But it also then goes into a zombie nightmare, and there's kind of a Lovecraftian twist at the end. So there's a lot of creative, different nightmares for our characters to be plunged into.
Does Cthulhu make an appearance?
Maybe at the very end. You just have to find out.
That, for a sleeping ancient one or whatever, he's very active in a lot of works.
He gets around.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Okay. So horror and the rock and roll scene. So like not getting paid the royalties that you're due are.
Yeah, that's a real problem for some of them, for sure.
Writing a song that if you play in reverse opens the gate to hell. Like
we do have a little backward masking in there, and
nice.
There is one story in the 70s version where a young musician uses a Ouija board to write lyrics, which is really doesn't turn out to be a very good idea at all.
It sounds great though. It sounds like a good idea when you're stoned or drunk. And yeah, man, I'm gonna do that. All right.
And needless to say, there's also the old selling your soul to the devil. You've got to have some stories about that.
Of course.
There's a 60s version by Marco Manone that's really fun. It's about how the 27 Club really started. And are you familiar with the 27 Club?
Vaguely. So there's a lot of performers, musicians that died when they're at the age of 27.
Exactly, yeah. Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Amy Winehouse.
Kurt Cobain, was it 27?
Cobain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of a fun origin story.
Something about 27, you realize life is shit. I don't know what it is. You get over that. Oh, man. 27 and... because that is weird, right?
It is, yeah. It's a very interesting, kind of phenomenon that no one's really ever figured out why that particular age is the sweet spot for leaving the mortal coil after you've become so incredibly famous.
I know, man. It's messed up. It's messed up. And there's so many things you mentioned here that I want to kind of like dig into to explore. I know you probably don't want to give too much away, but at the same time, I do like to tease a little bit to get more information. Let's talk about the using the Ouija board for writing lyrics. I know you said it's something you wouldn't do, but like how far does?
I said you shouldn't do it.
You shouldn't do. Good for correcting me. So would you do it?
Yeah, why not? I figure, hey, you can find inspiration from just about anywhere. Could be fun to find out what happens.
So you're not afraid. You don't fear the unknown, do you?
No, I don't.
That's good. You dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. So what happens in that story?
Well, actually, it turns out pretty well for the young woman who used the Ouija board to write lyrics. That one is by an interesting author named Dr. Oolong, seemingly, which, believe it or not, is a pseudonym. And it's not me, but that story is in the 1970s edition, and there's a lot of Alice Cooper references in there, and of course, a lot of musicians themselves have mixed horror into their acts, like Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie with White Zombie and
Black Sabbath.
I love that aspect of it. Yeah, of course, Black Sabbath, Ozzy.
I mean, rock and roll and horror go hand in hand, and when you start getting the harder rock, like metal, oh man, it's like when you have include like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, those guys are metalheads, or not metalheads, but horror fiends. And oh man, what's the dude's name? I'm escaping on his name. Diamond Head.
Dimebag Daryl.
not Dimebag Darrell. Dang it.
I don't know.
I'll look up. Anyway,
Okay.
Dimebag Darrell's great though, but that's later on. I mean, that was like around Metallica. That would be in the 80s, right? Late 80s.
That's 80s, 90s. Yeah. That kind of sound.
Yeah. Okay. So, now what about selling your soul to the devil? Is that something you would do?
I don't know if he'd give me very much for it. It's been around the block a few times.
I mean, it's an interesting idea. I mean, I guess the offer was good. I mean, what could it get for it? What is the value of a soul? What is a soul
I guess
worth?
fame and fortune, and then you have to forfeit your soul when it's time to pay up. But I guess it's always been kind of a way for kind of mainstream people to explain how someone could be so incredibly talented. I think Paganini, the violinist of the 1700s, was the first, I think, musician purported to sell his soul to the devil because he was just far too talented to be mortal. And that's kind of how it all started. And then, of course, there's the story of Robert Johnson, the blues singer, who also died at the age of 27. In the 1920s. Yeah, he was a blues performer, guitarist. And that crossroads myth came from Robert Johnson.
Huh.
And it's also a way for musicians to kind of build up their own mystique, their mythology. Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin was really into Aleister Crowley and the black magic thing in the 70s. It was just kind of, I think, a way for them to make themselves more intriguing to the public and the press.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you said there. I mean, like, that dude died in the 1920s at the age of 27. I mean, he wasn't ODing on drugs or anything like that.
No, he was actually, I believe, poisoned by a jealous husband because he was messing around with someone he shouldn't have been messing around with.
That will do it. That will do it, man.
Yeah. But a lot of those blues and jazz performers, of course, Billie Holiday, were really deep into heroin. That was a very common drug in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, and that stuff will just ruin you. That stuff is
yeah.
bad. And what is it with like performers and like just, I guess,
I don't know. I can't imagine
clean.
how you could be that. Like, I've seen, of course, concert movies, say like The Who or Led Zeppelin or the Stones. Of course, Keith Richards is very well known as being a heroin addict back in the day, and they're performing so beautifully. It's just like, how do they do it? I don't know. It's pretty impressive. Would
they hide during the performance too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Man, I would not be able to keep rhythm. Then again, I can't.
I don't know, man. Like, I have one glass of wine, I'm like, where am I? So I could never be a rock star, but I love writing about them.
By the way, the reference I failed in, I can't believe I failed on this, was King Diamond. King Diamond obviously is a horror fan as well. I should have said the other the better Ozzy. No, I'm just
the less popular but better Ozzy.
Yes, less popular but better. The real Satanist. King Diamond is a legend too. Okay, so I like this. So a nice blend of horror and rock. This is good stuff. Man. This is.
And mythology. I mean, I love that stuff. It's so interesting to explore some of the possible origins of some of these myths that we all love.
Now, for the horror people out there, what are some stories that really push the horror part of it? That I guess when I say the horror part, I guess like the extreme stuff are really kind of, I guess do that. What are there stories that kind of seem kind of extreme in your books?
No, I'm not really into super extreme, like gory horror. That's really not my thing. So I
Okay.
didn't do that with this series, but there are some pretty gruesome death scenes. Sean McDonough wrote one, this sharp dressed manslaughter that I mentioned earlier. That
Right.
one's pretty gory. Yeah. And then Brenda Thatcher, she's got a story called Bite It Out that's a kind of a play on words for Pat Benatar's Fight It Out.
Hmm.
And the thing that gets bitten out is something that you do not want to lose, a body part that you don't want to you don't want to say
That
goodbye
a
to.
man doesn't want to lose.
No, woman. Yeah, so it's pretty gruesome.
Oh, oh,
Right. And then some of them are fun. There's definitely like I wrote a story in the 70s version that's takeoff on Hotel California. It's called Hotel Kill 'em for Ya, and it's got all the different amenities at this hotel of horrors. It's written kind of like a brochure or travelogue.
oh, that's
And
cool. That's
yeah,
cool.
the audiobook is in the works right now, and the narrators, Graydon Schlichter and Leanne Rowe sent me their audible version of that, and it's really funny. They added some sound effects and things, so it'll be entertaining. I think the books, once they're out on audio, will be great for the commute or long drives, kind of keep you entertained and energized.
Right. Listen to that, and it'd be listen to that while also, I guess, depending on what app you use, you could probably listen to that while also listening to, like, I guess rock and roll or heavy metal, whatever it is you want to listen to, 60s, 70s, 80s rock, while
Yeah,
listen to the story.
definitely.
Which, by the way, your writing process, do you listen to music as you write?
No, I can't. I get too distracted because I love music so much. I just get like I fall into the tunes instead of really concentrating. So I'm the kind of person who really likes to have a very quiet room. I am not the writer who's in Starbucks banging away at their latest screenplay. So it can be a little limiting too, because I just have my certain quiet, alone process where, but I still am pretty prolific. I get a lot done.
Okay. Okay. So you don't listen to music as you write. But do you find music to be inspirational in other ways? Like like you listen to music and maybe you generate ideas, maybe you note it
Oh,
down
for
or whatever.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, all those song titles came from just listening to music and
Mm.
having such a vast knowledge of the rock music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, because that's really my jam. I love all the era. Yeah, so that, and of course, listen to music when I'm working out or hiking or, driving in the car, that kind of thing. But yeah, not while I'm working, though.
Okay. Okay. And is there a particular song or band or genre that really helps the muse?
It's really depends on what kind of mood I'm in and what I'm doing. I go through certain phases. Right now I'm really into 80s electronica. I've been listening to a lot of
Mm.
Gary Newman and Devo and groups like that, Human League, stuff like that.
Mm. Okay. Cool. Whatever.
Yeah, Giorgio Moroder.
That's cool. So whatever your mood requires. Okay. Um, that makes sense. Makes sense. Kind of like change it up here and there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've definitely got a pretty vast playlist of different genres, but they're almost all within the rock umbrella.
And I would imagine too that some styles of rock or some styles of music you listen to may kind of generate a different sort of like, I guess creative, not really creative outlet, but like obviously different songs put you in different moods. Like if it's like a blues song, it's kind of more laid back and chill. It might put you in a different headspace than, let's say, like Black Sabbath or something,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But I do appreciate, the talent of everyone that's generates such inspiring music. I mean, everyone from Joni Mitchell to Metallica, they're
Yeah.
all there in my playlist.
Listen to some Days and Confuse. You get some story ideas from that.
I love it. Yeah.
It's like, man, I'm not even on shrooms. I've got some ideas. All right.
It's a very trippy song. I love the bass in that.
Oh yeah, really good, really good. A good bass goes a long way for me.
Hmm.
So, now Is there a story, because you have stories in this anthology, this trilogy of anthologies?
Yes.
And how many stories do you have in there?
I have about 4 or 5 per book, so
Okay.
each book has 10 or 11 stories. So
Okay.
I've written like about half of them, but then I curated the other stories from the authors and either gave them writing prompts or let them come up with their own stories. But I know so many incredible writers that I really couldn't fit everyone in, so I may also be doing a 90s version to
Now,
get in those other folks.
are these authors that you looked for, or like you kind of knew that you'd work with them in advance, or was there like an open call, or?
Oh, no, it's kind of a mix. No, I didn't put out an open call. I did reach out to writers that I know I love already,
Yeah.
people that I've known for
Makes
years.
sense.
Yeah, and then I had reached out to Mother Horror on Instagram. She's kind of a famous person in the bookstagram world, and she suggested Violet Castro, V. Castro, who lives in England, and she submitted a really good story. And then I found a few people through the Books of Horror group on Facebook. And then Jeff Strand is just an author that I fairly recently discovered and loved his books. And I just really felt like his style would blend in perfectly with this. And so he also accepted the challenge. So I was really pleased.
Yeah, Jeff Strand is a good author. I checked out this book called Sick House. I think a couple. Yeah, it was really good. Really liked that book.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, I my first foray into his work was through his short story collection called Candy Coated Nightmares that all kind of have a theme of candy and sweets, but rotten to the core underneath. And they're really fun. So that's how I kind of knew that he would be a perfect fit for this. But then I just recently finished his book, Wolf Hunt, which is an extremely gory but very, very funny werewolf movie. And it's, I mean, book. And it's about these two kind of not mobsters, but they're kind of enforcers who've been tasked with transporting a werewolf in the back of their van, and he's in a cage. And at first, you don't really know. He's saying, I'm not a werewolf, and he's trying to deny it, but then he can't. After a certain time, his true nature comes through. But it's really funny. It's very great cross-country adventure with lots of blood and gore. So, yeah. And then another writer that's in the two of the books, the 60s and the 80s version, is Darren Gordon Smith, who's been my writing partner for quite some time. And he wrote the movie called Repo, the Genetic Opera. He co-wrote that. I don't know if you're familiar, but Bill Moseley is in it. And it's kind of a rock and roll nightmare in and of itself. It came out. It's directed by Darren Bousman and came out about 11 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that. I'd have to refresh my memory. But yeah, I'm aware of that one. Okay, so out of the stories you have in this anthology trilogy, what is one that really, I guess, challenged you the most?
Challenged. I don't know. I usually just kind of flow. I've been writing for so long professionally. I mean, even when I was a teenager, I started writing for horse magazines and stuff. So it's just kind of very easy for me to turn on and write. But one of the most fun and somewhat challenging stories is in the 70s edition, and it's called Saturday Fright Fever. And it's about these disco stars who are put through the ringer, kind of like a Saw movie. They kind of go through these different chambers of horror, and a few pass away along the journey to the end. So that was fun. But also, I don't know if you're aware that Dr. Phibes, Dr. Phibes, is very Saw-like. So I kind of took some inspiration from that too, the Vincent Price movie.
Okay, that's cool. So what are they're passing through different chambers to like disco music?
Yeah, well, different things. Well, in one room, there's disco balls falling from the ceiling that are heavy, of course, and crushing people. And then there's one where they're in a chamber full of snowing cocaine. One person can't help but fall into a mountain of it and inhale it, and he dies. And then
Oh,
They have to do the hustle
well, at
through
least he didn't
one
feel
room.
anything. I don't think he felt anything.
It's crazy, yeah. So it was fun, very fun to write. And of course, I don't want to say who the perpetrator was, but let's just say it was a rock fan who thinks disco should die, literally.
Oh, man, but the snow and cocaine scene, that's a lot. That's a way a lot of people would like to go. I mean, I'm just saying that seems kind of. It's like,
Yeah, it's not that horrible, I guess.
I'll stay in this room. Yeah, I lived a good life already. You have kids. Yeah, I have a lot of kids. I have a franchise, okay, around the world. They don't need me. I'm good. I'm tapping out here.
Yeah, right. There is a disco inferno chamber though, which is fire,
Oh,
which is not so fun.
oh, and so what stops you from staying in the room? Like if the one guy was like, I want to stay in this cocaine room. What happens?
All right. Well, you have to get out. You know, it's like one door closes and then the other door opens with the key, and you can't stay in there. Otherwise, you'll all be killed. So
Oh.
it's like to get out. You know, something else will kill you.
Yeah, you just try to just get a bag, take some, and then go on your merry way.
Take a little doggy bag. Yeah.
And then you die in the end because that was a test. Because I don't know, maybe it's some sort of morality thing. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think it was that deep, but it was a lot of fun to come up with the different ways to die by disco.
See, if it was Jigsaw from Saw, it would be something like that. With Jigsaw, there was always some sort of like morality thing with addiction, whatever. It's like, you succumbed to your addiction. You weren't able to have resolve or strength, whatever. So now you must pay the price, a pound of flesh and blood, and some silly stuff like that.
Yeah. We're not quite that sermonistic with these books, but if someone wants to delve in for deeper meaning, maybe there's some in there somewhere. After all, there are 31 stories.
Speaking
So
of Saw,
something.
Have you seen Jigsaw?
That was the one before last, right?
Wait, no, Spiral.
There's so
No,
many-
Spiral.
Well, Spiral was the most recent one.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I did.
I haven't yet. I've been on the fence.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chris Rock was not my favorite thing, but it is fun to see Darren Bousman return to the, sort of big budget, big screen kind of extravaganza, because he has been making a few more, I don't want to say low budget, but lower budget than a Saw movie, of course. So it's fun to see him return, and he does have a great visual style that I've always enjoyed.
Is it like how would you rate it? Like were you a fan of the Saw movie, the first Saw movies when they first came out?
I love the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, that was so new. You know, I was working as an entertainment reporter and film reviewer back when it came out. I was writing for horror.com, which is not around anymore. And then I've written for Dread Central and Fangoria and a lot of those magazines. So I've reviewed quite a few movies. And I always try to kind of judge a franchise based on its own merits rather than kind of comparing it to a larger picture.
Right.
The Saw films, I liked most of them. The first one, of course, like I said, we'd never really seen anything quite like it, although it is kind of similar to The Abominable Dr. Phibes. But it was good. I like part 2. I think 3.
Part 2 is the one with the needle pit,
there were
right?
some I didn't like. Some I liked less than others. The 3D one I didn't really care for.
Oh yeah, 3D one was bad.
Yeah, I mean, they can't all be winners, but yeah, the movie just called Jigsaw, I didn't really care for that one. I think that was kind of a spin-off, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was like
that was the one that I was like, what? And there were scenes in that movie where there's clearly light coming through the sheet wall. I was like, guys, y'all could punch through that wall. I'm sure you could tear through that wall and get out of there. You don't have to be in there. But
I know. Yeah.
Okay. So I was just gonna ask, so let's talk about this. So you would recommend Spiral? I should definitely check it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best Saw movie, but I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Okay.
I liked it.
Okay.
I prefer like the more supernatural franchises. I enjoy the Conjuring series is a good one. I don't know if you saw the recent one, The Devil Made Me Do It.
No, I have not.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Although James Wan did not direct that one, and you can definitely tell. But I thought it was good. I like Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. I think they're pretty good on screen. And there was some pretty cool rock and roll connections. Again, there's like the Blondie song "Call Me" is kind of a running theme throughout the movie, so that kind of adds to the cachet for me.
The reason why I asked this is because I notice you do movie reviews too, so I figured you would be the right person to ask, and I was thinking about renting it today.
Opinion, though, I mean, if I say it's good, that doesn't really mean it's good. It's good in my opinion.
Exactly.
But you may not.
Well, that's true. I mean, I did a review of Fear Street 1994 today, and have you seen that?
I did. I saw the whole trilogy.
I haven't seen the whole trilogy yet. I saw the first one the other day, and I saw the second one today. And I say watching the second one kind of changed my opinion of the first one.
Okay.
I love slasher movies like Scream, Friday the 13th, Halloween. Like, I'm good with slasher movies, even the campy ones. Like, I'm good with that. The story doesn't have to make sense. I mean, it could be totally bonkers or whatever. But I did not care for the 1994 Fear Street, because I was confused at how this witch was operating. And I'm not really giving it a spoiler. It kind of gives it away, kind of like in the opening credits, that it's a witch thing. So it's like, wait, is it possessing people, or is it just sending people back out that it's already killed in the past? I don't understand, because I guess
I kind of wanted to tie it all together with the third one, which it does. But I mean, there's a difference between being confused and being intrigued. So I guess they maybe failed there. But I like the 1978 one. I feel like that one kind of stands alone anyway. You don't have to watch the first or the third one for that. But I thought they did a good job of emulating the tone of the early 80s slasher flicks. Yeah,
and I was thinking back to the first one. It's like, if they wanted to emulate Scream, they had it. Why did she just... They had it, and all they had to do is not reveal who the masked killer was right away, and then it could be, we don't know who they are. It could be the witch, but I don't know. And then them trying to figure it out, but they gave it away in the beginning of the movie. Oh, it is the witch, and we know it's the witch, and okay.
Oh, but maybe not. You haven't seen part 3 yet.
Well. I'm just saying, if part 1 was a standalone movie by itself without the other movies, then it would be.
You're right. I mean, I thought the weakest entry was the 94 one, but I liked him overall. I think, having been a film critic and a TV critic for so many years now, I've seen it all, and so to me, these are a cut above, say, the Blumhouse Into the Dark Hulu movies, and the what is the other one? Welcome to the Blumhouse on Prime. I don't really, those are kind of a mixed bag for me.
Okay. All right. This was good talk about horror movies. Horror movies.
Yeah.
Now,
there's a lot going on in the horror genre right now, which is great.
There is. Now, let's bring it back a little bit back to Rock and Roll Nightmare. What is a story that someone should definitely like? If someone was on the fence to check out one of these books, like, what do you? And they're a horror fan. They love like hair metal, like they're into like Iron Maiden.
Well, that would be the 80s version, Gory Days. And the great thing about Kindle is, if you're on Amazon, you can preview it. You can read the first few pages and see what you think.
Okay. Now, is there a particular story that you think they would definitely be into?
Well, I mean, needless to say, I'm partial to all of them, but
right.
Yeah, they're different stories. Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're different kind of subgenres within horror, but they all have some dark comedy to them. And I mean, the Gory Days maybe, though the first story is one that I wrote called "Don't Stand So Close to Meat." And it's about a chef to a rock star, and she's trying to get his attention with her food. And let's just say she has some ingredients that are not kosher.
Like human flesh? Maybe I was right, but the human flesh thing. Ooh, I don't know. Once you try it, I heard you can't taste it, like you get addicted to it. I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't had the opportunity, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, I do live in the chef capital of the world here in Las Vegas, where we have a lot of interesting boutique and sort of experimental restaurants, but I have yet to see anything for cannibals just yet.
Not yet, anyway. There's a whole community on Facebook.
Hey, it could happen. They got to keep this tourist trade going here.
Yep. Okay. Now, you have another trilogy that, let's see, it's, what do you call it? The Immortal Confessions.
Yeah, this one is more of a historical, it's vampire stories that are, these books follow one particular vampire named Ashara Conrad. And there's also a voodoo kind of twist to all the stories, because in my version, the vampire is created through a voodoo ritual. So that's one of the stories. The first one kind of goes into her history, when she was made into a vampire in the 1700s. And there's also a music theme running throughout. Beethoven is in the first book because he wrote a song called Immortal Beloved. And so I kind of twisted that into my vampire character. And then there's also a 1970s rock star in the books named Liam Archer. And there's 4 books so far.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Classical music, vampires.
Yeah, those are more, like historical. I would say historical adventure mystery thrillers. There's, of course, some bloodletting because they are vampires, but it's more about the characters. It's more a deep dive into their history.
And when you say historical, like how accurate does it get? I mean, some people are very particular when it comes to history, like historians.
Yeah, I know. I'm not writing this for, historians, but of course I do try to be as accurate as I can. I do a fair amount of research on the locations and the era in which I'm setting this particular story, depending on which book it is. But I do like to stay within contemporary. I'm not really a big fan of historical fiction, so I prefer, I guess, the 70s is a hell of a long time ago, actually. It's like 50 years ago. But I do, I still like the kind of the 70s and 80s is my sweet spot for setting different stories. So I do have a few of the books are set then. The most recent one, which is now being edited by the publisher Third Street Press, it takes place on Halloween night in 1978 at a rock station. It's like this graveyard shift DJ. And
yeah, see, I was going to ask too, and I bet you rock and roll plays a role in this as well.
Oh, yeah.
I bet so indeed. And vampires. Okay, let's talk about that, because vampires can be pretty cliche at times when it comes to horror. But what type of vampires are we talking about? Are we talking about like the glittering, sparkling kind, or the real kind?
No, more of the suave vampire, like the Frank Langella Dracula, or the Gary Oldman Dracula, the good-looking, well-dressed, well-coiffed vampire. Yeah, I'm not too, and of course, if they hadn't fed in a while, then they get quite gruesome and disgusting. But I'm not a fan of the romantic glittering vampire, and I don't really like the ugly kind of Nosferatu vampire either. But there's a place for everyone.
But he's menacing though. He looks scary. The Nosferatu vampire.
No, you're right, but he's just not seductive. That's not really my purposes. It's kind of there's the sex and romantic kind of angle in these books too.
Speaking of sex, you have a book called Sex, Death, and Rock and Roll.
That is a collection of short stories that I co-wrote with Darren Gordon Smith.
Oh, so what is? I was going to ask you to explain your obsession with sex, death, and rock and roll.
Well, it's not just mine. Sex sells. No. But yeah, no, it's a never ending, I guess, source of fascination for readers old and new. But that, book is not horror. It's more just, really quirky, some sci-fi stories. One of the stories in the book is about a young computer programmer. She's in her late 20s, and she resurrects her favorite dead rock star who passed away at the age of 27 in 1970. So it's kind of like Weird Science meets Get Him to the Greek. And we actually made a film of it called The Second Age of Aquarius that we are just wrapped post-production and are getting ready
That's
to...
right. You do films as well. And we'll talk about that. Okay, wait. So if you could bring back one dead rock star, who would it be?
Let's see. That's a good question because there are so many cool ones who we lost too soon. But I love Jim Morrison. I just really enjoy his lyrics, and I even have some of his poetry books. And he was quite an intellectual person who was very well-read, well-rounded, had a beautiful singing voice. So someone like that for sure.
Now, yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. I would say Kurt Cobain.
Yeah?
Kurt Cobain, because I want to know what happened. Who was there in the room with you, Kurt?
Conspiracy theories, yeah.
Yes. And sometimes they try to reopen it, and they find weird things like how I forgot what latest documentary I forgot to watch.
Was that the one about Courtney Love, or that one came out a few years ago? The private investigator that she hired.
that one.
Yeah, that was fascinating. Yeah, I am also a big fan of Kurt Cobain. So a great lyricist and just such kind of ahead of his time.
Yeah, I figured bringing him back to get that answer and let him to see what happened to I guess the grunge movement, like what happened to it, and so he could see that dude, it turned into Nickelback, like
right,
it turned into like what you did.
I know, and I mean, I don't like the Foo Fighters at all. My gosh, when they come on the radio, I turn the channel. So there are some rocks that I don't like, but Dave Grohl was so great when he was in Nirvana.
Yeah, he was, but he's Team Courtney. I guess I don't know.
I don't know either.
Oh man. Okay. Now let's talk about your movies, because you have one called Cabaret of the Dead. Also, it's called what?
Fetish Factory. Fetish Factory. Its alternate title. That was the first title that I came up with, but when the distributor got a hold of it, they said, well, when people Google fetish, all kinds of crazy stuff is going to come up, and we want our movie to be found. So they changed the name to Cabaret of the Dead, which actually I kind of prefer. It's more fitting of the storyline, which is about these burlesque dancers who run afoul of some bloodthirsty zombies in a post-apocalyptic Hollywood.
Right.
And it's I call it a zom-com, but there's also some good, decent amount of zombie mayhem in the film too.
That's pretty cool. So what was it like working on this movie?
Well, it was my first feature. I had directed a couple of shorts prior to that. It was produced by Jennifer and Michael Biehn. You may know Michael Biehn from his sci-fi films like Aliens and The Terminator. So he and his wife got into producing films and, giving first-time filmmakers a shot, mainly female directors. They were kind of on that wave of female horror filmmakers getting into the mix. And so I was lucky enough to be selected. It was a film, though, that we shot in 5 days. Okay. There was no compromise, and it was challenging for sure, but I love it. I like to work at a fast pace, and I wrote the script, so I kind of wrote to what I knew I could handle as a director, and we would shoot 17 to 19 pages a day, and we had a rather large cast. We had all the girls who were burlesque dancers, and then we
Mm.
had all the zombies. So we had several different kinds of makeups going on at once: the zombie makeup, the beauty makeup, all the different costumes. Because Tristan Risk from American Mary plays one of the girls in it, and Carrie Keegan is our lead girl. She plays a Betty Page kind of
Yes,
wannabe
yes.
lookalike.
I saw the trailer.
So it's a lot of fun. So we had all these great costumes and beautiful makeup and action sequences and horror and tons of dialogue. So it was challenging, but I love a day that's filled, that you just keep going from dawn till dusk and work your butt off and make it work. So yeah, shot in 5 days.
And it obviously has a very sort of a provocative allure to it, which, I mean, I'm drawn to horror. I'm drawn to that as well. So when I see a movie like this, I'm like, this looks like something that I would definitely enjoy. Cabaret.
It's fun. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a grindhouse throwback, although it is not, not super exploitation.
Yeah.
There's no nudity in it or anything, but there's a lot of double entendres and implied, sexual innuendos, but nothing. I wouldn't even say it would be worth an R rating, but I still think it's a lot of fun, and it is
There's
a throwback to that.
But pasties and some like twerking.
Oh yeah,
things like that. Yeah,
there's some TNA.
Oh yeah, and that's depending on what the movie is, to me that's fine. Sometimes horror movies could use it. Sometimes horror movies don't need it. Sometimes horror movies spend too much time on it. It's like a comedy like this though. It's especially when that's what it's about. It's taking place at a cabaret. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any trouble, any issues working with the ladies?
No, not at all. Everyone was excellent. Everyone kind of pulled together and knew that we were on such a tight schedule. And fortunately, everyone came with their A game, with their lines learned. We did have one actor that I cast drop out like 2 days before. I was like, oh my God. But fortunately, Jennifer Bean knew this actor named Daniel Quinn, who he came in just nailed it. And he actually turned out to be better than the original actor would have been. So sometimes when things like that happen, it can be for the better.
Right. It can be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No,
and then we have Chase Williamson in the film too, who's in John Dies at the End, which he's got a great comedic sense. He's fantastic. So yeah, I just really lucked out with a very professional cast who knew their lines and hit their marks and knocked it out of the park.
And that John Dies at the End story is really good. You
That's
heard that story?
wild. Yeah, I love that.
It is a wild story. I was reading, I was like, man, I can't put this thing down. It is just ongoing. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite zombie movie?
Let's see, zombie movie. I love Shaun of the Dead. As you can tell,
Yeah.
I'm really into comedy. So yeah, I like Shaun of the Dead. That's great.
Well, comedy's great like that. It could poke fun at the absurdity of certain genres, like horror, like zombie movies, like Shaun of the Dead did.
Yeah, I feel like it's laughing with us instead of laughing at it. It's definitely comes from a place of love.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and definitely because they didn't pull any punches when it came to gore and all that. Unlike the scene where they're feasting on the intestines, that was hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, and at the end when they start using them as like pets or whatever.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant. I love that. Yeah, that was really smart.
Yeah.
And then another sort of dark comedy zombie film that I enjoy is Fido. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Did that came after Shaun of the Dead, right?
It did, yeah, but right around the same time. It was pretty close on its heels.
Yeah, because it kind of it took the idea where Shaun of the Dead ended and kind of ran with that. I was like, I see what you did there. Okay, someone's been paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us the movie that we want to see afterwards. Okay, that's Fido. All right, cool. Yeah, those are definitely good picks. Let's see. For me, I would say, and I would definitely say Shaun of the Dead. I would probably also say Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, that's a great one too. Yeah,
even the remake,
Oh yeah.
Probably
yeah,
Zack Snyder's best film.
Yeah. It was. Did you see? I'm like drawing a blank right now, but the most recent one that
Oh,
Zack
Army
Snyder
of the Dead.
Yeah, Army of the Dead, which was set in Las Vegas.
I was not a fan of that movie. It was too convoluted.
Yeah, my boyfriend hated it. He said, "Oh gosh, it's a ripoff of this, that, and the other thing." It was way too long, of course.
Way too long.
Like some of it. I thought some of it was fun.
Way too overcomplicated, and it doesn't everything that they did in the movie just doesn't make sense practically. Like, why would the government parachute the troops in when they knew what it was that went in there? They know it's zombies. Why wouldn't they just like carpet bomb the place? I don't know. It just didn't make, none of it made any freaking sense. And
you're right. It was pretty nonsensical. I guess sometimes I love the visuals of something and I'll let a lot of the logic fall, but I did enjoy the sort of Siegfried and Roy, zombie tiger and
that was cool. The zombie tiger was cool. The zombie tiger was great. When the zombie tiger killed that one dude, that was a good scene. He got thrown around like a freaking ragdoll. That was great.
And of course, he's the person you want to see.
Right.
Yeah.
And that dude was the dad from Saving Grace, right? the show.
I don't know.
The baby, the sitcom with the baby, or something.
I never watched sitcoms. I don't know.
Oh man, I think that was the one. Anyway. Yeah, it's just way too long. Just way too long. I was like, no.
It was way too long. Yeah, a lot of movies are so long now.
Yeah. And those zombies were supposed to be really smart, but yet they couldn't figure out the secret way that the coyote was using to get in. When she went into Vegas, the secret way, it wasn't barricaded. It was just a door and a shipping container. That's it. It's like they could have just went right through that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, come on.
Yeah, no, you're right. Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake was a lot better, of course. I love that opening sequence is just fantastic.
Yeah, and see, it didn't even, like the zombies talking or like doing that sort of thing or kind of having babies.
I don't need that. Yeah, I agree.
Well, see, that didn't bother me. Like, if you want to be campy like that, I don't mind that. Like, but my thing is like, if you're gonna have like a complicated way to go in there, please have it be complicated to where your fast-paced, moving, super smart zombies or super soldiers or something can't like figure it out themselves. Because I mean, if they could do that, then why haven't they? It just, to me, raises questions. Like, what? I don't. Oh, and the movie's bad when they totally forgot about a character. In that movie, they saved that one chick, Greta, what her name is, and then they're in the helicopter crashes, but like she's never mentioned again. You don't see her dead, and it's like, okay, well, Zack Snyder even forgot about it.
Too long and complicated for the filmmakers too, apparently. But I mean, I did think it had its moments, though. It was kind of fun in some places, but could have been about half as long.
Yes, we don't need a Zack Snyder version. We don't need the uncut version of that. A 4-hour version of. Oh god.
Oh, let's hope that doesn't happen. It could. Don't tempt fate.
Are you into those superhero movies like the Justice League?
No, I worked for the Sci-Fi Channel for many years, and I've never really been into those, but I certainly got an education working as a reporter for them. I covered Comic-Con for many, many years, so I learned a lot about them, but I never really did catch on with loving them. I just also recently watched and reviewed the new Black Widow movie. What did you think of that?
I haven't seen it yet, but I did see your review. It seemed like it was a fun movie. It kind of seems like that. I mean, people kind of have questions. Black Widow's invincible. She's like a super soldier. She doesn't have super serum in her veins, but she doesn't even get a broken leg or a messed up ankle or anything.
Yeah, she's tough. Yeah, I did like Florence Pugh in it as her sister. Of course, we loved her in some of her horror movies that she's done. So it's good to see people that are kind of breaking through in horror movies into other genres, but hopefully she won't leave us entirely. She's really good. And then I thought the actors were good. There were some, again, some parts that were kind of eye rollers, but overall not bad.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet myself, but I heard that You know, and this is kind of weird for a Marvel movie. I heard like the actual like dialogue scenes, the acting scenes, like the character moments were actually kind of better than the action sequences. The action sequences kind of seem like they're kind of like seem like they're filmed differently. Like you kind of tell.
Well, maybe they had an action director. I don't know. I didn't look
that's
too
usually
deeply
what they
into
do
it.
with those movies.
But yeah, I got a screening to see Old, the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, which I thought had a pretty intriguing premise.
Yeah.
So there's some good stuff coming.
Okay.
You know,
check that
out. Yeah.
All right. Now we asked about your favorite zombie movie. What about favorite horror movie all around? You got a favorite horror movie all around that you go to?
Well, it's of course impossible to pick a one favorite, but I do. I'll name off a few. I love The Shining.
All right, that's classic. Yeah.
Suspiria.
Ooh.
Rosemary's Baby.
The original or the remake?
But I tend to like follow directors too. I love a lot of Dario Argento movies, a lot of Roman Polanski movies. So those are some that I like. The Omen.
When you said Suspiria, were you talking about the original or the remake?
Oh, of course. Are you kidding? Have you not learned who you're talking to yet?
Because let me tell you, the remake is so much better.
The remake was different.
I'm joking. No. The originals are freaking classic. It's great.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh God. Just the colors, the vibrant colors of that movie, they really pop out.
Oh yeah, that whole Art Nouveau kind of sensibility and the score, the synth electronica score and the sound design, it's all just really so atmospheric and beautifully done. Really
good. Now, the remake for it I don't know, they didn't even need to call it Suspiria. They could have called it something else.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's not a bad movie on its own.
It's not a bad movie on its own.
Trying to call it Suspiria, that kind of definitely put a damper on it.
Because I could tell you that the final act of the remake, holy hell, that intense. Is it appropriate to call it an orgy? I don't know what was going on.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it definitely had that chaotic visual, very taboo, different kind of things going on. It kind of reminded me a bit
Argento would have been pleased with
that
that.
scene of Darren Aronofsky's Mother, which I consider to be a horror film.
Yeah.
That really, chaotic, satanic visuals that are going on, and just the strangeness and the eeriness of it.
Yeah, that's true. Those are some good picks.
Yeah, hopefully people are writing these down. There's some good movies out there to check out.
A lot of good movies. But it was great talking to you, Staci Wilson. Great.
Well, I thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
It's no problem. And for those listening, definitely check out the Rock and Roll Nightmares. I'm guessing people can get them on Amazon.
Absolutely.
All right. Rock and Roll Nightmares. Check them out, and also check out Cabaret of the Dead. Okay. Ms. Wilson, if anything else comes out in the near future, other projects come out, you want to hop on again and talk more in depth about it, we could go even deeper in the subject matter. Feel free to. Anyway, for that said, you guys, ladies, y'all take it easy.
Thank you.
All right.